This old DWRG review is written by Adrian Sherlock, published on the 11th of the 6th, 04. This is one of my favourite stories of all time, probably due to the fact that it was the first new Dalek story other than the rather disappointing Destiny since Genesis of the Daleks, and the one and only encounter for Peter Davison, arriving just before the end of his tenure, which I had thoroughly enjoyed. So Davison and Daleks is an automatically winning combination for me, and the fact that Eric Saward, who wrote my all-time favourite story Earthshock, wrote the script is another massive plus in my book. Saward, like Robert Holmes before him, likes to borrow rather heavily from the classics, and this story has a very Orwellian England in 1984, with dark, decaying, rain-swept streets and sinister police who kill their futuristic victims with the same ruthlessness as the Fort Police. We are thrust immediately into a paranoid world straight out of Quatermass or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the police and soldiers are replaced by alien duplicates in a plan to cause the collapse of society, and the Quatermass and the Pit illusion is added as the Army Bomb Disposal Squad investigates alien objects mistaken for unexploded bombs. The Doctor is dragged into this scary situation by a time corridor, discovers that a Dalek has been sent to capture him. With a little help, he shoves it out a window and sets off to find Turlo, who has mysteriously vanished. He's unaware that he's left taken with cold-blooded alien killers. Scary. Meanwhile, in the future, the Daleks are trying to rescue Davros from his space prison. This is really dark. The Doctor fails to get there to help, and the whole crew gets wiped out. The Doctor is handed over to the Daleks by a malfunctioning clone called Stein, who reveals the reason for the Dalek plot to capture him. They want to clone the Doctor so they can get at his planet too. This is great conspiracy theory stuff, because the Daleks are out to conquer a lot of planets, but it's in the form of infiltration and subversion by imposters rather than just an all-out takeover of the universe, like in the older, more comic strip style Dalek stories. Meanwhile, Davros plots and schemes to overthrow his rival, the Dalek Supreme. With the aid of Stein, the Doctor stymies the clone plot by destroying his brain recordings and confronts Davros. With Earth and Gallifrey under threat, the Doctor considers executing Davros, but the more Davros tries to justify the sickening horror and violence of his creations, the more the Doctor's moral sense is enraged. This is a brilliant moment. He cannot kill Davros because he is not like Davros, no matter how much the twisted scientist may deserve it. The Doctor reaches Earth after Davros slips through his fingers, but Davros gets his just desserts all the same. He releases the virus from the alien canisters, which destroys the Daleks, but this rebounds upon him too, ironically showing that he and his creatures are essentially the same. What's more, the Dalek Supreme wipes out his followers. Justice is something Davros brings upon himself, and not administered at the point of a gun after all. A prison is a great place to set a story about questions of justice and punishment for the evils of characters like Davros. Ultimately, the Doctor's words to Stein are more effective than any weapons or bombs. He helps Stein uncover his repressed humanity, and it is Stein who saves the day, giving his life to destroy the Daleks. But a final kick in the teeth awaits the Doctor, as Tegan walks out in disgust over the violence and horror which seems to surround the Time Lord. This gives the whole story a dark and emotionally potent quality that lingers long after it is over. Overall, this is one of the most gripping and memorable of all Doctor Who stories, and has become sadly and undeservedly criticised by many fans who simply fail to take the time to see the real story behind the action and set pieces. Visual allusion to other stories gives a feel of recapturing the stories of old, but there is no actual continuity reference to any story other than the last Dalek story, Destiny, which this follows on from. It is also nothing like Earthshock, which was much more straightforward and simple than this. I think Resurrection of the Daleks deserves much greater praise and recognition, because it is basically one of the most exciting and powerful stories of all time, 10 out of 10.